welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us to talk about hybrid working spaces. I'll invite you all to introduce yourselves in just a moment, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about why this session is even a topic. According to a recent McKinsey study, 2020 accelerated change by 3 or 4 years. Now that sounds like an incredibly low estimate to me. I can't imagine that we would have been at this point in 3 or 4 years' time without the pandemic. And I do wonder if in 2019, whether we asked businesses if it was viable for staff to work from home, how many of them actually would have said yes, they can have 3 days from home if they want. I think it would have been an awfully small number. But according to Buffer, 98% of people want to work remotely, at least part-time. And a lot of surveys indicate that between 40 and 60 people would be willing to change their jobs if they don't get to work in the way that they want to. So hybrid working is not something that employers can ignore, because they could well end up losing their good quality staff to more flexible employers. So on that note, we'll go around the table for introductions. Mark, you're at the top of my screen, so we'll start with you.
Great. Hello everyone, Mark Scott here from Tombola. My role is recruitment business partner, so I look after anything from the UK and all our European sites as well, so Italy, Spain, Denmark, Sweden, the Netherlands, and soon to be Portugal as well. And yeah, really interested in this topic. So we've done a lot of trial and error on things, and I'm really excited to sort of talk about what Tombola are doing in this space.
Charlie.
So likewise, it's a fascinating area. As a landlord to 150 different companies, will they ever come back? I've seen in the papers today the work from home rules might be extended, but we have lots of interest and data points from running Hoult's Yard and the other couple of sites, Haylofts and High Point, and we're developing a sort of pure play hybrid working space next to the central station in Newcastle. And I'm also, as a co-founder at Opencast software, specifically developing, we've got like a £500,000 budget to refit an office for Opencast as we return to work. During the pandemic, our office, or before the pandemic, we had an office for 25 people because most of the rest of the devs in the business were on site elsewhere. That was about 75 people. We're now 150 people, and none of our on-site customers want to have the devs back. They want them to either work from home or work from our office, and we're heavily committing to having a hub for our own Opencast software office because we want to build the cultural aspects of work. So lots of data points there.
Good stuff. And Jen, welcome.
Hi everyone. So I currently wear 2 hats. So I'm Director of Invest in Newcastle. So we work with companies to attract them into the city, into Newcastle and Gateshead, to establish their business and their presence. And we also work with existing companies who have growth plans. And then my other role is Head of Economic Development at Newcastle City Council. So again, focused on creating, good jobs in and around Newcastle. And so I actually come at this from a couple of angles. Obviously, I'm speaking to loads of companies that are looking at their changing workplaces. I'm speaking to companies that are not yet here, but are looking at building a base here. And that's changed dramatically the ways of work since, before the pandemic. We kind of act as a bit of a broker between the property agents and the landlords, such as Charlie, and the companies. But also for my own organisation. So Invest Newcastle and NGI have actually moved offices since the pandemic. So that's been fun. And I'm sure I'll get to talk about that a bit more. But from the Newcastle City Council's point of view, you can imagine 8,000 staff, all very different, from architects to gardeners to, bin collectors to your officers and policy folk. that has been in its own very interesting, seeing how we adopt these new working styles.
Absolutely. And I've realised I didn't introduce myself. So for those who don't know, I'm Laura Kemp, Cluster Engagement Manager for Dynamo. I lead on service delivery centres who are massive employers within the region. So this has obviously been a huge topic. So a very broad panel, I think we've got today, with interesting perspectives on the subject. First question, what do we mean by hybrid working? Jen, what does it mean to you?
So for me, it's that flexibility, and I think we're sort of all testing this out. As Charlie, or I think you said actually at the start, Laura, COVID has accelerated this. I deal with companies who never in their life, were always very resistant to being able to say that they could work flexibly and have staff working remotely. Of course, that's been forced upon them. So companies have had to invest heavily in their technology. Employers are and employees are asking for more. So, some people have found it tremendously difficult working from home, while others have actually found that it works much better for them. It could be that it's childcare. It could be that the sort of lack of commute is actually really helpful. But I think hybrid working is definitely, for me, it's that mix. It's that, spending some time in the office, spending some time out of the office. It's the change in the workplace. It's for us, the kind of the technology that we use for hybrid meetings, which, brings up its own challenges, which I'm sure we'll chat about. We had our not our first, but we had an interesting team meeting the other day with one of my team who's based out in New York at the moment. And, we had most of the team in the office with him on the screen, taking part in the meeting. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. But it's that flexible approach. And I suppose we're still working out what that fully means to individual businesses.
Yeah, we'll come back to that point about having meetings where some people are in the room and some aren't, and how to make that work. Mark, Tombola, famously hybrid anyway. A lot of your staff worked from home all of the time, even pre-pandemic. So what's changing for Tombola?
Yeah, we were pretty lucky in the fact that more than 50% of our staff work from home permanently anyway. So I think a week before actual lockdown, we got everyone sorted, working from home. We've done it pretty fast, but we've got a big IT team as well to help us with that. But hybrid working to us has been, again, I think I mentioned just initially, around trial and error. So, a lot of it comes down to talent. It comes down to what we've been doing with development, or just technical recruitment in general, especially. We've seen the market go from 0 to 100, so actually working full time in an office to fully remote. And it's something that we didn't want to just jump on straight away with the market. We wanted to sort of test it out, and we've done that with, speaking to over 100 developers in the time that we've been recruiting over the pandemic, and sort of easing our way into this hybrid working model, where now we offer 3 days in the office, 2 days work from home. But what we've also done what we've also had in, regardless of COVID, is core hours as well. So that's basically give our staff the flexibility to sort of do the school drop off potentially, or just come to work a little bit later on, or finish earlier as well, to sort of beat the traffic. So we feel now that we're in a pretty good position where, yes, it's not going to suit everyone who is fresh to the market, who are wanting this fully remote working. We believe a lot of our culture is based in the office and with true human interaction in the office. So we've sort of got this nice mix, and I think we're sort of settled now, and we're sort of riding this wave. And if things do, in 6 to 9 months time, if they do get to where people are still really wanting that remote work, and then we'd potentially look at that. But as of right now, it's sort of calmed down, I guess, from the talent front, and actually we're both attracting people to our roles and also retaining our best talent as well.
Mm-hmm. Charlie, you mentioned in your intro a huge investment in Opencasts. Is this as a direct result of the lockdown measures over the past 12 months, or was this something that Opencast were planning anyway?
Well, I think we needed a slightly bigger office, but we also are very much believers in people and the contact that we get. And I was just scribbling because I think we discussed in our rehearsal, and I've done this chart, which is on my remarkable pad, which I would recommend to anyone, but which is, I don't know whether you can see that, when you're at home, in the work day, it's all about work. And when you're at the office, there's commuting, there's chatting, there's, training, there's some work, there's a lot of collaboration. And I think the key piece about the work piece, the office piece, is that work will change. There was a thing on the BBC a couple of days ago, if not yesterday, that 7 million office chairs are destined for landfill as a result of changes in work, and that there's a huge waste challenge there. But the piece that we've been thinking about with Opencast is for software development work, or heavy concentration work, it's absolutely ideal to be in a home office for that. But therefore, you don't need to lay out an office with banks and banks of desks in close confines like before. So we've had to invent a whole new language to explain. And in our research, one of the main things that people were worried about wasn't actually COVID, it was about acoustics. They wanted to have small pods where they can work in teams or otherwise that wouldn't be overheard, etc. Or if you are in the office, that you take a call, that you can then take that in a sealed environment. So we have created this language that's new for us in the layout, with one-man stations called booths, 2 to 4 person rooms, which we called studies, and then 8 to 10 person workspaces, collaboration workspaces, which we've called cabins. And we've had to pepper our spaces with all of these. And then we've got a massive kind of common room area. And the sort of questions in our mind are, why would people come back to the office, and what will they do when they're in an office environment? And there's the pandemic and the disease, the virus sort of permeating that. But we do think that people will want to come back for a big common room space, for big conferencey event type stuff. Maybe it's, like a sort of school room or like a Starbucks with people will sit around a big table and do things, or maybe they'll want to go into small rooms. So the money that we're spending is in putting all of those different spaces in place. If there is a resurgence, then we can kind of track and trace our people. And then the spending will be on how to heat a space with lots of little rooms, how to get the ventilation right. So it's all of that. And then, as with Jen's point, what's the tech in the rooms? There's a whole room booking thing or desk booking piece. And then in a room itself, historically, collaboration would have been Post-its. But do you have some kind of screen so that you can have people who are not in the same location? And then, is it Post-it notes, or is it a touch screen? Is it Miro? Is it Microsoft Whiteboard? And all of that stuff, we're still kind of catching up with where it will go.
You've said such a lot there, Charlie, that I want to unpick. Let's start with that point about tech. We've all spent the past 12 to 18 months learning how to interact, and particularly to collaborate remotely, using things like Miro and Teams and Slack. Coming back to your point, Jen, of that meeting where you're all sat in the room, but there's one person on the screen. How are we going to make this work if everybody's not in the office on the same day? Are these meetings going to be a little bit odd? Are those people, sort of in the back row seats that only get to contribute when they're invited, or do they actually feel like they're in the room?
No, I mean, we will get more and more used to this, and we are already. I think I mentioned there's a brilliant company actually in Hoult's Yard that actually were ahead of the game years ago, a digital company called The Tin. And I remember when they first set up their office in Hoult's, they had a big TV on a wall that was actually linking their Holborn, London studio with their, because it was only a small team in Newcastle. I think there was only about 3 or 4 of them when they first started. And it was brilliant because you could actually, you could see the other teams working in the other studio. I must admit, it got a little bit weird when you were walking and you'd hear somebody coughing in a completely different city. But they made it work, and they were really ahead of the curve. We're starting to kind of make that work for us, and I think we'll see more and more of those kinds of meetings. As I say, we're doing them, fairly regularly. We've all adopted, I mean, we're on Teams. It seems like a lot of the public sector have moved on to Teams. I've got to say that the higher up you go in the organisation, the more resistant people tend to be of getting on, whiteboards and chats, but people have adopted it. And they're working really well now. So I think, because of that investment, I think there is a reluctance that you can't go back. You can't invest that much time, effort, training and cost and then go back to how it was done. So I think, I think it will get more and more. The thing that I'm starting to find is a bit of a challenge is that I am now used to back-to-back meetings with literally no room for a comfort break or to make a cup of tea. I'm known for being a couple of minutes late for every meeting because I have to have my Earl Grey topped up at, for every meeting.
Brington's never Earl Grey.
always Earl Grey. But when we've been going back into the office, our teams go in sort of once a week. We have set days. But I'm not leaving any time for travel, and that's the culture change that we're going to have to get back into, is that people are going to have to understand that you can't have back-to-back meetings for the entire day because, we used to have time for travel, we used to have time to catch people in the kitchen and have a chat. And actually, I find that is really, really productive. I think that hybrid mix is productive. I was in town the other day and met up with a partner, and we bumped into other people while we're in town, and that was probably 7 meetings worth of conversations that I had in an hour. But then I do find that at home I can get if I have a full day that's not full of meetings, I can get stuff done. So I think it's just finding that mix between Can
I ask you a question, Mark? Because in our pre-discussion, we were talking about the sort of future, because it's totally frying my brain. If we've got a hot desk type situation, who has it for those 3 days, or do they have it for 2 days and then another 2 days? But I think in Tombola, you're saying that everyone will have a desk and a home office. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Charlie. So it was frying our brains. We couldn't really work it out, and we've got cleaners cleaning all day, every day in the offices, but I still don't think that's enough. And I think people do want that space as well, where they can call it their own, they can personalize it potentially. So what we're doing currently is that we've bought the bar next door to us, and we've transformed that into the office, which is a really cool bar. If anyone knows Sunderland pretty well, it's the Bonded Warehouse. So we've took all of that, and we've got an outside space for barbecues, we've got downstairs for pool tables, PlayStations, that type of thing, and more meeting rooms, which we were desperate for.
So that's going to be a social hub, is it, kind of thing?
Yes, but with around about 50 desks on the first level as well. We've covered the bar up, unfortunately, because we know our people are like. We've also renovating our original building, which is Wylam Wharf, so we're spending around 2 million on that to bring it up to the standards of our Tombola house, which is our HQ. And then we've also got a 4th building as well, which we're going to be transforming over the next 2 to 3 years. So we're fully investing in the area, in building this campus, and to really give people that true flexibility of you can work from home 2 days a week whenever you want, so you can change it week after week, but 3 days in the office to take full advantage of the culture, of having them off the cuff conversations like you've just talked about, Jen, but also take advantage of one of our biggest benefits in Tombola, which is the amazing on-site cafe that we've got and our in-house chefs. And that is really where that unique part of Tombola that it's hard to replicate it. Well, it's very hard to replicate at home. I've tried myself, and I'm resorting to pot noodles. So
you're looking a lot thinner.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel it. So that's what we're doing currently, and I think that's to really say to someone, look, you've got your own dedicated desk. No one else is going to touch it. It's yours. You know where you're going to go to, and this is going to be your own safe team space where you can go to. So thanks for asking that question, because it's something that we're really proud of.
I think obviously Tombola's offices are amazing on Sunderland Riverside, so a beautiful spot, but it's probably no secret that it's a lot more expensive in the centre of Newcastle, and it's possibly not affordable for every business to operate it, in that way of saying, have your home office, we'll keep your desk here, just roll in, whenever it suits you. That's a real luxury that Tombola are able to offer that. I don't think it's representative, particularly of the way that a lot of businesses are going to have to operate, particularly if social distancing measures do stay in place long term, and that we have to, kind of have space in between desks. So, Charlie, I'm going to come to you. More realistically, how can businesses that can't afford to have an individual desk per person, what are their options?
Well, the elsewhere, because it's not so big in the northeast, flex space, as they call it, or space as a service, or hot desking is much bigger, and that's why we're developing this product by the central station, to do touchdown working, and so that you can be a member for a certain number of hours in the day. And then, so if you're in a smaller business, you can get membership for your crew, or if you're a freelance worker, you can live anywhere but have some kind of club in the city centre. So we'll see where that goes. I still think that we are pretty low cost as a city, and often, I mean, I've had this hybrid working, nomadic working concept in my mind since working in London 10 years ago, but it hasn't proved that popular because the price of office in the northeast is not a big proportion of the overall cost of running a business. And people, we've said, have an office in an open plan environment. There are half a dozen other people there, and people have started there and quickly gone to having their own room for 2 or 3 or 5 and grown, because they actually like quite a nice, their own space, shut the door and build some kind of cultural affinity with colleagues. So it's coming. I mean, it's interesting in London, which was the co-working capital of the world. It got a bit overcooked. There are a bit too many spaces. And so I think the balance will work through as more landlords realize there is that kind of market. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the chat, Laura, and
yeah.
There's another very interesting topic around, so if you're footloose and you're working in a lower cost economy from a salary perspective, does that mean you're a target for being hired by people in London, New York, Barcelona? And I think Mark will probably be able to add some colour to that as well. We know that our teams at Opencast software get hit up all the time, and that there is a sort of working from home, somebody's comment, it's also working from anywhere, and that is a challenge, but it's also a two-way street. And we've hired at Opencast a lot more people, even in London and Manchester, since the pandemic to join our team, who chime and resonate with our business model, good teamwork, and the challenges and excitements of the type of clients we've got. So that was to answer the question that came up. Yes, it might mean that there's a challenge in London because people don't want to do the commute in the very busy environment, the tubes and buses that you get in London. But I don't think we're necessarily going to lose from that. I don't know whether that's the same for you, Mark.
No, again, when I mentioned about trial and error, we've seen a lot of different people coming through, and not just in the tech space either. We're talking marketing, finance, other areas of our business that we've been recruiting in. But especially in the tech space, what we've had a real shock at is pre-pandemic, we would make an offer to someone and that was it. They would join the business. You may have to flex on salary sometimes or whatever it may be, but there was very little negotiation, and their word was their promise. Our tech recruitment over the last sort of 6 months calmed down a little bit, but over the past 6 months, 50% of all our offers were either declined or were counter offered massively. I'm meaning 25-30% on top of their current wage, and that's when you're talking to other businesses, you realize that actually when you put in recruitment costs, training costs, the gap in someone not being or not working on a certain project or whatever it may be, or product, you can sort of justify that 10, 12, 15,000 pound increase. It's worth it for the business, especially if it's a key person as well that they're potentially losing. So we've noticed hugely around sort of either local businesses counter offering or struggling to hire, or having to go fully remote just to attract the people outside of the region. And also pre-pandemic or pre-COVID, it was a struggle to attract tech talent anyway. We're quite saturated with regards to tech businesses, and not enough talent coming through either. So when you start inviting London firms, Manchester, whatever, and offering them types of salaries that we potentially can't match all the time, it is a real struggle. And especially we've seen our sort of younger devs potentially going, I can get 60k here, and that's not possible for my experience potentially in Tombola or even for local tech firms. So they've jumped at that chance, but actually in 2 or 3 years time, they're probably going to price themselves out of this Northeast market because of that. And they're going to have to probably take a drop in salary if they want to come back to a normal working environment or a hybrid working environment. So that's going to be really interesting in the next sort of 2 or 3 years to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point that, we know that we live in a beautiful part of the country. We're right on the coast. We've got countryside right here. We've got a fantastic way of life, amazing people.
Says the queen of paddleboards.
Am I selling the region for you, Jen? So there is going to be a problem over the next few years of people wanting to live here, but being able to work essentially elsewhere. And I know what you're saying, Mark, that it will eventually go full circle, and they'll probably find they need to take a drop in salary to come kind of back down to earth. But what can businesses do in the meantime to actually safeguard their people? Jen, what are you seeing from your clients? Are people panicking that they're not going to be able to retain their staff?
So not so much. I think we're, like you just said, the sort of quality of life and the ability to actually attract more talent from outside now. There's a lot of companies that are stipulating that, despite going flexible, remote, for part of the week, that they want to see people together in collaboration space to work on projects for at least a day or two. It seems to be, or 2 or 3 days seems to be the kind of 2 or 3 days in the office, 2 or 3 days working from home. We've also seen that actually people's commute times, or the amount that they're prepared to commute, has increased from about half an hour to an hour now, which actually opens up our ability to attract talent from much further. So I suppose it's a couple, we know that people have more disposable income in the Northeast, and that's why we're attracting more talent into the area. That I know for example, a lot of my London-based friends are now looking on in envy or outpricing some of us in the housing market over in Whitley Bay or the wilds of Northumberland, because of what they can actually get for their money up here. And so you're actually finding that talent is moving here. They're prepared not to take a London salary because they know that actually their money is going to go a lot further. And then I suppose it's up to me and the team to actually work with those companies that are looking at recruiting here, and say, you need to have a base here. And that's where, we come in to try to attract them here as well. And it is, obviously it affects local companies because there's more pull on the talent. But if you look at it sort of wider, and longer term, actually, the more companies that are here, the greater the critical mass, the more that the graduates want to stay in the region. And hopefully, that makes us a much bigger and more sustainable cluster.
Let's hope so. Just while we're talking about people, one of the biggest challenges, I think, of hybrid and remote working is safeguarding their well-being. It's so easy when you've got your office set up at home. As you said, before we actually started, Jen, you log on before 7. I'm often sat here at 9 o'clock in the evening. How do we protect our people from actually working too much? Mark, what's Tombola's take on it?
Yeah, look, we've been listening to our people, and we've been figuring it out as we went along. This is brand new to a lot of people. What we've put in place. So this is actually my first meeting this morning, by the way. So we have meet-free Thursdays, where we don't have any meetings in. Sorry, meet-free Monday. Meet-free morning of a Thursday. So in a Thursday afternoon, that's the only time that we can really have meetings. We don't have it. We just have a break from virtual meetings, which is lovely. Something that we've introduced over the last couple of months. We also are currently building out a job description for a wellbeing advisor, or they might be called customer engagement. We're working out the job title at the moment to really focus on our people. But we've been in the fortunate position where we've been able to afford to pay for people's screens at home. Everyone's got a really great up-to-date laptop. And whatever people have really needed, we've been able to sort of accommodate to that certain extent. But that's us in quite a fortunate position, and having that cash, and our facilities guide, health and safety people have put things in place. So really, we're in a good place, but it's mainly down to our people and down to actually just, again, test the waters and just going along with things, but also trying to feed off different businesses. Hopefully we are pretty collaborative with other Northeast businesses, and we do sort of try and ask, and being part of Dynamo is the great thing around being able to have that huge contact list of people where we can go out and ask them questions and just be able to collaborate more as a region and help each other out has been massive.
Yeah, just picking up on something that you said there about meat-free mornings, which I also did here, as we don't eat meat. But no, we all get what you mean. But Dan had put a comment, Dan Britton from NHSBSA had put a comment in the chat about 15 minutes ago to say that they actually trialled no Teams days, which I presume is Teams, the collaboration tool, not that they're not allowed to work as part of a team. But what happened was they just condensed all of their meetings into other days and ended up with Teams fatigue. Is that not happening at Tombola?
No, not really. I haven't seen it, and I don't talk to every single person, so I don't know. It may be happening in some areas. I know I feel guilty because every morning we have a recruitment stand-up with our sort of tech lead. So we're sort of breaking the rules at times, but actually we've been told no, unless it's super urgent. Take that away and just have a break, which is really nice when you've been told that from the sort of top down. no, I don't see that. The same thing happens on a sort of Friday afternoon, 3:30. We'll have sort of Friday fun where we just sit back, relax, and just talk as a team about anything and everything, and even sometimes have a drink with that as well, whether it be tea or something a little bit stronger. So we just try and be flexible as much as possible, but it's super, super important. And now we can see the investment coming from the engagement side and the well-being side, and really trying to build that out and making sure that it's sustainable for this hybrid working model.
Yeah, Kev Morris has just commented in the chat actually that if you limit the meetings, it can actually give more time to think about which meetings are adding value. You kind of you cut out the ones that are perhaps just happening for the sake of it. Charlie, what does it look like at Opencast?
I was thinking about the brilliant workshop that you ran the other day. Was it last week, Laura?
It was last Monday, yes.
Yes, which another great benefit of Dynamo was, what were they called? Duo-Me?
Duo-Me, yeah.
The consultants who are a bit expert or building their expertise in hybrid. And I was particularly struck as a takeaway about their concept of building a policy around how we should work in this new world. And I'm terrible at being sort of always on, and that's probably okay for me as a sort of founder and owner. But I have become more conscious of inflicting people with what was that? The Netflix documentary, was it called The Social Dilemma, about alerts and things like that. I've been more conscious of not sending people WhatsApp messages at 4 o'clock in the morning when I think about it, because it might ping at their other end, which is a bit unfair, or Teams messages, or all of that, because I'm just thinking about 65 million miles an hour and plugging that all in. And I think that sort of stuff is very, very much worthwhile discussing across a team, which channels, when they should be open, closed, should people put their do not disturb on, and all of those things. Again, we're in the foothills of exploring that as companies.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to moderate my own behavior.
A couple of suggestions in the chat for internal email free days. Someone saying that they do that about once a month to stop from filling up inboxes. I've got to say that idea just makes me panic at not being able to just email people. But we've literally got 2 minutes left, and I know that the four of us could sit here and talk for hours. We are going to have to wrap up, and I would like to end on a positive. So I'm just going to go around the room and ask what excites you most about the future of work. Mark, we'll come to you first. No time to think about the question.
Well, for me, my passion's talent. So, to explore all of this new ways of working and this new talent as well. I think there's a lot that we can do as a region to keep and retain our best talent coming out from universities, or working a lot more with the colleges and apprentices. But really sort of making this shift, but also making sure that we don't lose our integrity either when it comes to this hybrid working. We're fully confident that hybrid working is the right model, and having that flexibility rather than fully remote where you don't have that human interaction, or 5 days in the office. So we're fully on board with this and really excited about the opportunity in the future. Good stuff. Jen, what are you excited about?
Well, what am I not excited? I'm always excited. So I'm really excited to get back into the office. I've got to say, I'm one of those advocates that get a lot from just talking to people, as you may gather. Having gone back into the common room, which is a grade 2 listed building, which has had its own challenges, but smack bang in the centre of town, I just keep bumping into people, and it's just been really, really nice and great for the team, some of whom we hadn't met in person because we onboarded them during the pandemic. And so it's been great to find that quite a few that we've employed are the same height as me, for example. A couple a lot taller, I've got to say. But it's about sort of regrouping, getting back together, finding that collaborative spirit, but then not losing the big leaps forward that we've all made through working on different platforms, and being able to get, it's so easy doing my job, connecting with companies in markets across the world and having them join events. It's been a lot easier doing that, but nothing is going to replace actually bringing them to Newcastle and Gateshead and showing them around in the sunshine.
Absolutely. Charlie, you've got about 20 seconds. What are you
I'm just going to show you back to work at Hoult's Yard. We've got red, green and amber. This is supposed to be amber wristbands to help people. Red if you don't want hugs, green if you're happy, and yellow if you're in the middle, so that people can, as part of, it's like we're instituting it from today as an idea I saw on LinkedIn, because some people are a bit nervous coming back, and they can have a red band so that they're not being lunged with handshakes and all of that. I think I'm here with elbows rather than hands.
Do they swap to red when they see you come in, Charlie?
I think they all flick, yeah. Maybe they've got orange. Not you, but I'm happy with them.
That's a brilliant idea, Charlie. I think I'll probably be red.
Yeah, no, we know that some people are nervous, and so they can show their band.
Yeah, I'm not a hugger anyway. Anyway, thanks so much for your time. I do think that the future is exciting. We've got an amazing opportunity to redesign the way that we work and how we interact with the rest of the world as well. We are all talkers. We could sit here for hours, but we're going to have to call time on it. I will just add that strategy session that Charlie mentioned, we are going to be repeating that soon for anybody that didn't get along to the first one. So keep an eye on the Dynamo website and our social media channels for the booking going live. The last one sold out in 24 hours, so you have to be quick.